Hi, so again, welcome to Lean Agile Glasgow. For tonight's talk, we have Sole Pinter and Sheetal Thacker, who are going to be talking about Heart Agile. So the talk is called Heart of Agile, a compass to navigate complexity. I think the best bit here is just to kind of throw it over at them and see what they have to say. Thank you.
Hello, welcome. I'm happy to be finally here. I was supposed to be last month, but I've been in a very bad, strong flu. So I'm happy to be finally here with you guys. And if you hear me coughing, I apologize in advance because it's still getting into me. And I'm here now. Joining me tonight would be Sheetal Thacker. She's in London. I'm in Belgium, by the way. I'm from Argentina. And we will be talking about first, it's like, let's say, two parts of this of the talk. I'm going to talk about Heart of Agile and my concept of compass and how to use it as to navigate complexity. And the second part, that is the most new part that we added later on, is this concept. We took the compass concept and move it into Heart of Agile guidelines that we start developing with Sheetal some months ago. So this is like really firsthand. We just kick off this last month. So you have it as firsthand. So we'll be happy to hear your feedback afterwards, what you think and how you can find it useful. So Sheetal, I don't know if you would like to say something.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So unlike Sole, I took the flu jab today. So if I start to wane and disappear, that'll be why. But so far, so good. Yeah, I'm Sheetal, and I've been working in the Agile space for a fair number of years now. I've forgotten how many circuit. And I've been I've done a lot of work with this. With other conferences. I run my own meetups as well, and so do find us. And more recently, so I was working with a retail company. I've heard of Heart of Agile before, and I really like the human element that it brings to an organization. And from that perspective, that's one of my kind of strategies when I do go into an organization. It's always adding the human element to a work environment to make it a little bit more bearable and take away that stress that gets involved. And what I found when I ran these assessments with this retail company, how effective it was. But what I found is the way the company had approached it was a little bit clunky. So I was like, you know what, this needs some kind of improvement. And then I met with Sole, we spoke about it, and I was just letting her know that we're actually working on, her assessments. And we then decided, okay, let's look at it in a bit more detail. And we then, Sole was talking about her compass and how she wanted to introduce a more directional Heart of Agile approach. And from there, we kind of just put our heads together and started thinking about how we can come away from the assessment side of things, but be more human, be more realistic, be more pragmatic, and take more of a softer approach. So base it around guidelines. So you've got a compass that guides you towards the right way of working, for example. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Here. Let me know if you can. Oh, let me see. This happened to me in the past. Desktop 2. There you go. Now you can see the presentation now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. If not, you will see my view of the notes, as you know, when you have two monitors. So, as we mentioned, we're working together on this concept. So I will start from the beginning. For those who haven't heard about Heart of Agile, Heart of Agile is it's like I can find the words. Oh my gosh. Let's start like this. We know Alistair Coburn, one of the Agile Manifesto writers, right? And since 2001 until now, we were having all this over decoration and a lot of techniques and scaling and different ways of doing Agile that we've been hear of And at some point, he started challenging this idea of going back to the basics, right? In 2015, he decided to start working in this concept called Heart of Agile. Heart of Agile as the essence, as going back to the basics. It's a call out of going back to the basics. And I started working with him in 2017, early 2017. I heard about this concept before, and I have the opportunity to meet him in Argentina, and we start working together on developing this concept back then. So what is Heart of Agile? What are these 4 words? Collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. It's a way to be more agile, to become more effective at your everyday work. Whatever you do, no matter the industry, no matter with your family and at your personal endeavors, is to try to be more effective and to be better at what you do. And we like to see it as not as a framework. It's the first question that we have. That's why this particular slide is here. The first thing is, people think the 4 words. I see it like going in a clockwise, or is a framework, a process. No, it's just a reminder, a tool. Alistair used to say that is like a mandala. And for me, it's like, for him, it's like a mandala, or like something to stare, to put it in the wall and to stare at it every day, right? Because it's just these 4 words that are imperative, by the way. I will get to that part. And for me, when I start looking at it and start trying to find the more operational part of it, I think for me, it's a compass. For me, it's about how to make this a tool, a way of moving forward conversations that matter. And when we think about these 4 words are like the very, this imperative is like, we have to collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. Collaborate to deliver, reflect to improve. It's just the basics of the teamwork. It's I even challenge. It's not about, we don't talk about Agile. What I love about these 4 words is that you can go with this sticker everywhere. I once, when I was in Australia, I give a training in a university to the staff, and there were librarians there. And we talk about these 4 words and what they mean to them. And everybody can relate to these words, no matter the industry that you work with. We all have memories of collaboration, about deliver, whatever it is that we are better at doing that. And what are these 4 words? Well, if we start seeing them as quadrants, and if we double click in these words, there are other topics that will start appearing inside that. If I want to talk about how to collaborate, I need to talk about communication. I need to talk about collaboration itself. I need to talk about trust. I need to talk about the culture of where I want to start this collaboration, right? In the case of deliver, if I want to extend that, I need to talk about the internal flow, how we manage our internal workflows, how we communicate inside that area. If we talk about the deliver for learning, deliver to the world, get and touch the world and see and improve the world, right? Prop the world, see what we need if we are having the right persons, the right people to do it, the right technologies. If the concept that we are delivering is the right thing, if we are doing it right. When we talk about income, deliver for income, is about early revenue, how much revenue we have about this. And one of the things that I like about Heart of Agile is that we separate reflect from improve. We are putting a stress on making a pause. We have to stop to reflect, so we can reflect on the product, like examine the data that we have the feedback from the world that we're having. So then we can do something about that. But let's take the moment to pause, breathe, and see what's there in the data that we're coming from the world. And also what insights I'm having, which are my emotions regarding this. People don't like to talk about emotions, but one of the things of having the heart at the center is that we are people. And that is one of the main, I think, differentiators that Heart of Agile has, that we will get there, I hope, at the end, on having humanity at the center. And so we need those insights, we need those emotions also to be, for us to reflect on. And the last but not least in this particular order that I decided to go through is to improve, and what to do on how to improve. Well, we talk about experiments. We talk about making one change at a time. Like we know that we have to make baby steps, like try things, experiment all the time, but as few as possible at the same time, because if not, we cannot see which one makes the difference, right? If it worked or not. And why we'll do this? Because we are after the nurture of culture. We're after finding that sustainable pace. So in general, these are these quadrants and these topics. If I look at, if I choose to see this, I can say that they are like a compass for me. When I look at that, I can say, if I have to talk about culture, I have to dare to speak up and ask some question that needs to be answered. If we want to navigate the complexity of our work, of our life, and how, which is the way to improve and to move forward, well, I can see how I come up with the compass concept, where I love, by the way, this picture, when you have all these different directions inside of how to move forward the conversations. So about that is what is the main, I think the main message behind the compass as a way to move forward and to advance the conversations of what we like to address, we need to address, because we know sometimes those are hard questions that we need to make. And as an example, I like to take back this example of how to hyper expand the Heart of Agile. And these are just, maybe you've seen this before. We show this from some time ago. And these are an examples of different topics, techniques, themes that we talk about all the time. And I challenge you to find other things that are not here in this expanded version, and something that you use, a technique that you know, and I'm pretty sure that will fall in at least on one of those quadrants. So this is just an example for you to see. If we want to make it complex, we can. We can always make it complex. The idea is to go back to the basics, to go forwards always. And remember to check that compass. So, okay, Sole, this is marvelous. So now, how can I do this, right? So we talk about what are the conversations that I can start working tomorrow? What are the conversations I can start asking? And some years ago, with some colleagues in Argentina, Diego Rivera and Lina Prato, start developing questions around Heart of Agile and around coaching and how to ask people things. And based on those questions, we start developing more questions, and I start developing more questions around, okay, if I want to advance the conversations in these topics and these topics that I show you, which are the things that I have to take into account? If I want to talk about collaboration, I have to say, okay, which are the attitudes that can help us improve in our teams? How can I improve the collaboration itself? And I love this part that I always ask at the end every single time is what action can I do tomorrow? What can small action I can do tomorrow? And if we all work in companies, and in many companies, the executive and even managers have the bonuses are attached to competitive objectives between departments. So how can you expect to collaborate with different areas when everybody start competing, right? So those are the type of questions that we need to be there to ask, right? We need to address as soon as possible if we want to move forward in this, to navigate that complexity inside an organization, for example. And what are the agreements that align these goals? How can we help improving them? Regarding the deliver, if we go to the next, I will stop really to forward, so I leave Sheetal some time to talk. We talk about deliver small and soon, probe the world. I mentioned that before. And when we talk about internal flow, it's about identifying bottlenecks. It's about how to make the workflow more effective and how to unclutter that that bottleneck station once we identify where the not the problem, but where the stuck is, right? So if we talk about, I mentioned deliver for learning, that is one of my favorite, is about talking about the risks. It's about how can mitigate those? How can we make partial deliveries to learn sooner? That's about small and soon. How can we make small portions of what we deliver so we can probe it to the world and have that feedback? I'm talking about feedback and checking that that data. I mentioned pause, check data. Are we delivering the right thing? With decisions, can we improve with more information? Which information is missing? Those things that has to do just with the product, services, or whatever it is that we are delivering to the world, having those questions regarding that. These are just an example of a very long set of questions that we have for each of these topics. And reflecting of emotions has to be to check that how we are doing and how we are feeling with our current outcomes, how are we emotions, where, in which place they are, and how we are doing, what are we doing with those, right? Where are we placing and how we are taking care of ourselves in this process. And I think that 2020 was a great example of having that thought first, right? That we have to take care of our health in many different ways. And just at the end, to talk about the improvement part, we said experiment small, limit the changes, check that that is sustainable, and promote the culture. And I was mentioning, when I have all these questions, for me was more than questions that we needed, and that's where Sheetal came in place, and we started moving from assessment, that we are not making an evaluation out of it, but more into a guideline, because we believe in people and we believe in that these are the right directions to move forward. And that's where the guideline, that Heart of Agile guidelines came in place. And we like, this is when we start talking, it was the mission. I don't know if you want to take it from here so we can explain more about this. I can go on for another hour. There's completely on just the Heart of Agile and all these subtopics that are super passionate. Is my passion, but let's stick to the plan. And now we're going to talk about the Heart of Agile guidelines itself. So Sheetal.
Thank you, Sole. That was really good. And what we're going to do actually today, we're actually going to think about our emotions when it comes to what you see on these guidelines. So be ready if it's okay. Just watch. Just look at the reactions. Do you have the reaction button on your Zoom panel? Can you just let me know if you have? And just maybe share a reaction, a thumbs up or a clap of hands or something. Yeah, great. Oh, awesome. Great. Okay, this is fantastic. Okay, I am now going to share my screen and actually give you a first view of the Heart of Agile compass. Can you see the right screen? I'm hoping you are. You can even. Right, so I need to put you in gallery mode, hence why I've changed my location actually, so I can actually see your responses at the same time. Okay, so, right, this in a nutshell is the beginning. So you guys are one of the few people that are actually going to see this for the first time in the making. So we are still working on this, but majority of the thinking has been done. So we're pretty much ready to go at some stage. We ran a test of this as a workshop at Agile Tour London, I think it was. Yeah. Then we did a presentation at Agile Tour Brussels as well, which was, I think it went down quite well. So we're quite pleased with it. So just to give you a little bit of background, just like I said before, you know, the human approach is really important. So the number of times where we've gone into organizations and it's been, you know, the professional face is very much there, but the human element seems to just who's kind of probably crying for help or crying because they just don't know how to do a piece of work. The complexity is just blowing their minds, and they're not saying anything because they're just maybe, you know, too afraid of being wrong, or, you know, they don't want to come forward in case they look silly or whatever it is. And what we want to do is actually try and find a strategy that actually helps bring people together, but not only bring them together, but come together in a way where you have a voice. So initially, this is what we're looking to achieve. And what I really love about the Heart of Agile, it does follow a bit of a journey, and it introduces the journey, which is come together and collaborate. Let's collaborate together. We collaborate together to deliver together. And when we deliver together, we can then reflect on things together. And when we reflect on things together, we can then move forward and improve on things together. So I love the idea that it starts with the word collaborate. So that's what I absolutely love. So it does kind of go clockwise, but I think it goes clockwise for a very valid reason. Okay. So I wanted to just introduce you to this. So we have the heart of collaboration. And the heart of collaboration comes with transparency, trust, safe spaces, the culture, how we communicate, and how we also work together. So there's a number of actual compass items and kind of pointers that will actually guide us towards understanding our organizations better, but not just organization level. You can use this compass at leadership level, team level, and at middle management level. So you can go across the board and really see if you can capture the answers. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just have a quick read of these statements, and I'm going to pull out one of these statements. I'm going to ask you to look at your reactions. So I've lost my reactions thing now. So let's just use the heart emoji and the one that looks like we're laughing. So there's two emojis on the reactions. So we'll use the heart to say, yes, we really do this, and we adopt this particular strategy. And the crying one or the laughing one to say, no, not quite. We're there, but we're not quite there. So if let's look at, say, for example, culture. So we don't ask questions. That's one thing we actually avoid. So what we do is we kind of think about statements that actually trigger thinking. So the statement in this case would be, teams have autonomy to make decisions around how work is prioritized and delivered. So just back out to the floor, how many of your teams have the autonomy? So heart for autonomy and the laughing face for not so much. Yeah, so majority we have. Mike, did you want to tell us a bit more about your teams?
So as I'm not currently...
Oh, I've lost you.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Mike, we can't hear you just now.
How about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Linux does some very funny things with the previous team.
No, I'm sorry, we've lost you again, Mike. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to struggle with the volume.
Okay, not to worry. Maybe put it in the chat window and we can read it out for you. So we can have a look later. So, okay, another one. Let's think maybe communication. The team and business stakeholders are in frequent communication with each other and they're all on the same page. So I've just added a bit extra to that, but how about that one? Okay, again, it seems like there's a lot of agile organizations here, which is great. So, you know, even tiny little things can actually contribute business agility. So Duncan, you put the cry face on. What happened there?
Yeah, no, it's just that I'm working with a couple of teams, and some of them have got better communicating with or their information than others. Sometimes you turn up at meetings and you're kind of going, okay, wasn't expecting to hear that. But other times it's fine though.
Exactly. So the thing is that there seems to be in some organizations a disconnect with business, product, and the software development teams or tech. And the key thing here is what we want to do is actually introduce a way to, so the trigger here, the direction and the compass here would then lead us on to sort of introduce a strategy where everyone gets to have a voice about what they do and how they work together, and actually introduce a formula of how, or even a little mini contract to say, how are we going to work together going forward and what can we do to actually break those silos? So what we're looking to do here is break silos. I'll do one more in collaborate. So for example, have a safe space. So this is about trust. Have a safe space to independently communicate concerns or challenges. Heart or cry? Great. So does somebody want to, oh no, another one. Mike, did you want to put something in the chat again for us?
Don't know if you can hear me better now.
Oh, I can, yeah.
Okay. So I think like most things, it's relative. So the team can have a safe space, but I think a lot of my teams feel comfortable talking to me and don't feel comfortable talking to senior managers. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And so it becomes relative. And I think the managers is try and open up to people so that you create a precedent so that then they can feel more comfortable opening up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, or, you know, introduce the waste. So something like that, if we found that there wasn't a safe space, then, you know, what we look to do is introduce a strategy or maybe some behavioral introductions as well to say, okay, so as a senior manager, for example, you know, what we really want to do is actually, what is our mission? What is our goal? Our goal is to make the work happen. So understand what the work is that we need to do, make it happen, and actually help support our teams to make it happen. And that's the difference in language as well. Support our teams, make sure that they have got the capability to make it happen. And if they don't, encourage a strategy for growth as well, to say, okay, if that's particular skill might be missing, you know, and there's a safe space to say, oh, I don't know how to do this, I'm just a bit stuck on this, or, you know, I want to leave this team and I want to go somewhere else. You know, we want to be able to provide that kind of safe space to help people achieve their own goals as well, because everyone who comes into the office, no matter who they are, they've got their own personal goals to meet, they've got their own personal aspirations to meet, and actually having an understanding of that would actually help better communication. And also if you're actually helping an individual grow in their organization, then the chances of them staying is actually much higher as well. So by helping and supporting, you're taking on a different approach when it comes to managing. So yeah, being able to communicate concerns and challenges is actually something that we really thrive for in across the Heart of Agile. And the other thing, when you say safe space, I know there's been this whole concept of psychological safety. There are two sides to that coin. I don't know if you agree with that, but when it comes to psychological safety, some people use that as a way to just say whatever they want, which is not quite the right approach. Because when sometimes you say whatever you want, you're going to end up hurting a lot of people, especially if you're quite rude. So what we want to be able to do is create a space where you've got a voice, but your voice is focused on the work, not on the people. So you don't want to be doing finger pointing. You don't want to go, he said, she said. That doesn't go down well. It doesn't always work well. So what we want to do is actually, when we are creating that safe space, we focus predominantly on the performance of the work, rather than look for people to finger point at and, you know, basically reprimand, because that creates a culture of fear. So we want to come away from that. So we ran this test, and you can see how we had some performances. So we had some really happy, cool, yes, we live by this in terms of flexibility and commitments, having autonomy. You know, there was like 3 areas, 3 people who were, you know, sort of claiming that, yes, we do this in our organizations. But we had a few sad awards. They are aligned across the organization, and actually they weren't. And there was, you know, again, this compass is a trigger point to go, okay, how can we help you get that alignment? What can we do? What tools have we got in our back pockets that we can give to you as an organization that will help you with that alignment? So this is a way to get people's true feelings out in a way that's non-threatening as well. So I think that's kind of the approach that we want to take, where we're not testing anyone. We're providing a strategy to kind of get an outcome in order to help them and support them. So let's move on to deliver and zoom in on these. Again, this is just a snapshot of what we've got. We've got a whole plethora of statements here. So deliver for learning. How about if we use our hearts and cry emojis again, and you tell us about deliver for learning. So we have all the profiles and expertise needed in the team to deliver what we commit to. Yeah, so Duncan, I saw the cry face again. Tell me a bit more about your teams.
Well, depends who I'm working with, but I'm currently doing some work on my own, so it's not, I don't have the skills for that one. And there's other teams that I'm working with that have got, they've got some of the skills, but not everything. And I'm not sure how we get money for that.
Right. Yeah. So this is one of the things around creating business agility is to actually bring teams together in a way that actually they can become multidisciplinary, and that is to introduce a strategy. So introduce more collaboration, openly talk about what you're doing, openly talk about your approaches, openly talk about your work. And by having those open conversations, what you're doing is you're actually increasing capability as well. So, you know, team members who may not previously understand anything about, say, testing or design, suddenly have this awareness of what it means and what kind of tasks and strategies are involved in testing, to the point that they can very least speak the language. And so, you know, multidisciplinary teams it's an approach to kind of help grow your own area of expertise, and collaboration is one way to be able to do that, and open conversations. Another one, let's see, we have a shared understanding on how to prioritize our work. So that's gates the compass for delivering for value. Tell me about that, guys. Nice, we're all delivering for value. So Ville, Katie, do one of you guys want to talk? Did I say your name correctly, by the way?
Quite good enough. For me, it's going there, but it's on the way. There's still discussion, what is value and so on, the difficult parts.
Yeah, absolutely. So defining value in the beginning is the first actual step to actually being able to understand what value is in the first place for an organization. I think in many cases, prioritization tends to happen almost, this has to happen first, this second, this third, or in some organizations, there's actually no prioritization. It's just like, just do the work, here's your list. There's no particular way, that it's been prioritized. But yeah, there you go, off you go, which actually makes no sense because you get a bit of a scattered delivery approach on the other side. Actually, Gary, I'm going to pick on you a little bit now. In terms of you put Love Hearts all the way through, which is great. So tell me about how you guys prioritize.
We prioritize in a few different ways. So we start we do it differently depending on exactly what we're working on. So we try to fit our prioritization to context. An example would be that we'll use something like user story mapping to build up our kind of entire context, have a conversation about the relative priorities. We'll group first, have a conversation about relative priorities within the groups, and then come up with an MVP line within that, usually multiple MVP lines, and that's what we do. We build a walking skeleton, then build a slightly better version, a better version, so on and so forth. So we use kind of modern agile techniques.
Yeah, that's like music to my ears, absolutely. And this would be something that we would then use as a guide to say, okay, if you're not prioritizing, let's take a closer look at your work. Let's see how you're currently organizing the work, and let's see if there's a better way. And if it could be through user story mapping, it could be through finding an MVP. I think the key around prioritizing against value is actually first of all getting on the same page about what it is you're delivering and who you're delivering it for, and what are their needs. So where are the pain points? What are the problem areas that we're trying to solve now and immediate, or what are the immediate ones? And again, a lot of exploration work needs to happen. And so this would then also gear us towards making such recommendations to say, okay, if we're not prioritizing, or if the prioritization is not working, let's get closer to what you're doing. Let's understand the product. Let's understand who you're delivering for. Because if you think about it, we're all delivering some kind of value to an external customer at the end. Even if we're working on some kind of enabling or in an engineering team, we might be keeping the lights on for architecture, for infrastructure, but ultimately it's the end user that's going to be able to, that's consuming your work. It's actually, you've given them that capability to be able to take a product from an organization. So we always have to kind of start with the customer, work our way back, and think about ourselves as to how we're delivering value to that customer. And whether it's internal or external, we still think about who that end consumer is likely to be. It might be internal, like I said. So your end consumer, your value that you're delivering is to maybe to your marketing team. They need a CMS to write content and put out articles and do campaigns. In which case they're your customers. So you can then go and do some value proposition canvassing to really understand their needs, capture their pains, and then understand what their value is as well. So there's a lot around prioritization, but understanding who you're delivering for in the first place is definitely something to think about.
We have just 5 minutes to go.
Oh gosh, sorry.
I ran out of ways to tell you. Sorry.
Thank
I
you.
might have a question.
Do we have a question? Sorry. Oh no. Okay. Right. So quickly reflect. I'll just do two more, and then we'll move straight on to questions. Let's do one for introspect. We sense check frequently how everyone feels about the work that they are doing. Great. Lots of hearts here, which is wonderful. I'm suspecting that's through a retrospective.
Reflection workshops, I like to call it.
Yeah.
Just to think forward, not backwards, please.
Sorry, Sole.
Retro is a Scrum word, and we are outside Scrum here. Thank you. She's learning too. We are all.
So here's an interesting one. So data. So Sole mentioned data in her slides. So we look to, let me just think of one. The team had the capability to accurately plan and forecast the delivery through data. That should say through data, I'm sure. This comes as no surprise, by the way. So again, metrics matter. Metrics matter to the team in terms of how are they performing? Are they being overloaded compared to, you know, how much work we're delivering, how much is our work in progress, what is our lead time, what is our cycle time? These key metrics, they're very simple to capture. In fact, Jira, I think it's Asana, Azure DevOps, all of those can capture those very basic metrics. And by capturing those metrics, let me just see what I'll zoom out at the same time so you can see how everyone else was doing. So when it comes to metrics, people don't think it's really valuable, but actually it tells you a little bit more about your own delivery, your own performance, and how you're doing in your team. So it's more valuable for the team, but it's also valuable for the product owner when it comes to putting in all the work into a backlog and preparing the work. They can actually see how fast or slow that they can go in terms of, you know, generating their user stories. So that's on Reflect. So let's move very quickly on to Improve, and we will go to let's see. This organization provides all staff with chances to feedback on how they feel about working for them. All feedback is viewed and actioned. Yeah, so it's really important that we don't just think about the delivery for our customer and how we're doing for our customer, but actually really understanding. So this is probably a little bit around, you know, I think it was a trigger from COVID. So for example, mental health is a really big thing and it's a really big issue. And we need to make sure that the people that work for us are also safe and happy and healthy, you know, and they're doing well. Because, you know, our health also plays a really positive part in how we deliver our work. And if your staff are not happy, I can more or less guarantee the churn rate will be super high. So, you know, making sure that we're taking care of the people that help us deliver value to our customers are also taken care of. So there's strategies around that we would look to introduce again. So again, I'll just quickly zoom out on these captions so you can just have a quick view. But I'm going to stop there because I'm over time. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's our approach. So this is the sort of the Heart of Agile compass that we're looking to as a mission to implement in as many organizations as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both of you. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? You may be on mute if you hadn't noticed. We muted everyone at the start.
Yeah, I have one for Sheetal and Sole. Have you guys given some thinking to ways to visualize these kinds of insights collected in a way that you know, is let's say appealing beyond tables? Maybe that's the next step for people who are not involved in the team's work and do not want to read every single statement, but want to have a quick look, a grasp at how we are doing. Any ideas on how to do this kind of visualizations?
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. Thank you, Maru. I think we could potentially we would look to translate this into a report format. So we do want to be able to share the results with the teams or whoever it is that we're presenting this for. So yeah, there would be a report format. We've not covered that yet in terms of actually how it's going to be presented. But yes, certainly there will be an output from the other side.
Because the idea of these guidelines is not just to give you the answer of how to move forward, but state the way, and that you can find your own way to move forward, help you and assist you maybe on taking those further steps in the right direction according to wherever whatever the answers are after these guidelines come through, right? So yes, we are still working on how to visualize that. We are still grooming the questions and refining them and refining the tone. And on that note, I want to, while we hear another another question, if any. I'd like to share you this, that this is something that with Alistair and Rocio Briceño, there is another collaborator from Heart of Agile, that we come across what is the tone that we want to give to our communities in Heart of Agile, and then extend it on how we want the tone to be when we extend this to our work, to our life. And those are these extra words in the middle. If the verbs and the imperatives are the motto of Heart of Agile, the three words are enablers, are this way of moving forward that has dialogue and openness with humanity at the center. What I mentioned at the very beginning, that we are people at the end, beside the questions and what and how to move forward. That's something that I'd always like to remind, and I think it's very nice to take away to what we do in the different whatever place you work. So yeah, I wanted to share that for a moment. Another question, if any, or comment, feedback.
I think it looks really interesting. I look forward to diving in a bit deeper, and I really like the I mean, I like the whole idea, but the part that Sheeta went through, showing, here's things that you can think about. Here are real useful prompts. I think that is something you can actually take away and start to go, okay, I can start to apply this somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole purpose, and it's baby steps. It's to help you just apply. You can just make one shift towards improvement. So it's not that we all expect. We'll make loads of recommendations, but what we'd also look for are quick wins. What can we give you immediately to help you win with one of the statements? Mike?
Yeah. So Agile has moved outside of simply software development. A lot of the stuff that you guys have here is certainly software domain specific, especially in the delivery domain, or delivery, what did you call it? Sorry, I'm trying to think of the word quadrant. There we go. Yeah. How well does it work once you start moving into other things that have tried to acquire Agile? I'm thinking marketing, HR, Agile in education, etc., etc. I've always believed that to test something is ubiquitously true. You try and shift it out of a domain, and you see whether it still holds.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good.
I can answer that one because that's also a work in progress. Because my go-to answer to that is to fall back to the 4 words and to the compass, and we are adjusting our vocabulary. That's why Sheeta is just the newest member in Heart of Agile, and the tone and part of this is abstracting not only the Scrum or the very technical vocabulary, but also moving outside software, because that's the main idea of Heart of Agile, of going anywhere with these 4 words only. So that's our very, I want to be very careful on how to move out of that. The safest place for us to start trying is with this subset that we know. There are a lot of others that are outside software that maybe we can show if you want, but that are more general and has to do with talking to a leadership, taking to people, persons, right? I was mentioning giving an entire course to people from university staff that have nothing to do with software, right? And talk at two days on how to be more efficient without mentioning a backlog or software development or a retro, right? And that's a challenge. And those took me 5 years to get out of that. So yes, we are working on that, and that's our main goal is to be as distilled from those words as possible, to be very I like to be very, very careful about that, because this is an, I'm Heart of Agile Europe. I created the company, and this is an initiative from my company towards a digital company. And of course, has Ali's support. And on this, I wouldn't do it without his knowledge, right? Because we've been working together for a long time. But one of the main goals is not going back to software again. So it's part of what we are trying to achieve. In that's why these small props, you are like our testers, and why it's so important these feedbacks on this, because it's the way for us to keep learning on how to do that and to move from another assessment, right? It's just another assessment. No, that's why I'm very, very strong on this is a guideline, not an assessment. I'm not going to tell you what to do next. I'm just going to say it's that way. That's the thing.
Because I think you guys are going to run into a problem, and the problem is shown with the Agile Manifesto. So when you look at the values, they're fairly ubiquitous. When you start moving into the principles, they become fairly domain specific. And so things like Agile in Education have formed their own Agile manifestos for that particular domain. And the problem that you have is the more that you abstract, the more you distill something, the more you water it down and lose the message. And so you've got to try and find a reasonable compromise between abstraction.
It's like a trade-off, right?
Correct.
Yes, I'm with you on that. And totally. If not, we are just, I don't want to go back to a super high level, because it wouldn't be concrete enough for people to use it, right? Correct. But we can abstract some questions far enough to make it open to all the different industries. Or why not make a different set of questions according to the target audience that we are working with, right? Inside the same guidelines.
Yeah. So I think even when you just look at what you have currently, you've got data analytics and you put web analytics in there. Even web analytics is very specific. Analytics would be far more generic.
Anyway. Yeah, no, you're right.
Thank you for that feedback.
Really good spot. I mean, I think maybe that my pain point there is the fact that I come from the tech world. So I think in my world, I'm always talking and using tech language, and I have done for 20 odd years now. So yeah, that's a really good call, and I think that's triggered a thinking here, which is we could interview Agile experts outside of the software domain, like people from marketing, people from HR, people from education, and it would be really good to see what comes out and what kind of statements we can pick up from them as well, and then somehow merge it into the compass. So yeah, that's a really good call. Thank you, Mike.
Excellent. I think that's a good place to wrap. I think we're probably done with questions anyway. So thank you, everyone.